All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at BKFC 38, and that will go down in the top of the marquee bout. A very intriguing featherweight fight, one that caught my attention right away when the bout announcement came out, as Dat Nguyen and Daniel Straus knuckle up and toe the line, and happy to have Daniel on the show for the first time. How's your day going, man?
Hey, it's going good, man. Just got some training done, and yeah, it's a nice little Friday, warm down here, so yeah, feeling pretty good.
And I'm kind of curious, like, how long this has, been in the works for, because, like, a few weeks ago, the announcement came out that you signed with Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Like, how long has this been something on your radar?
It's actually been on for a while, a little more than a year, actually. I originally had talks with them a while back, and we couldn't make something happen at the time, and kind of just was moving through the motion. Was just doing my staying in the gym, working the job, just doing the normal 1-2, and came back on my plate, and was offered to let's get this done, and that's what we did. So I ended up signing with them, and yeah, they threw me a dat, and I was excited.
Yeah, and a lot of fun stuff to, get into with all of that, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, because I was noticing on your Instagram a bit over a year ago, you had a photo of the ex-MMA gloves from your last fight, and you captioned it, "Another one bites the dust," like seemingly hinting that you might be, retiring from MMA. Like, are you officially done with mixed martial arts, you'd say?
I think so. I wasn't meaning. See, yeah, a couple people asked me about that, and it wasn't that I was at the time like the whole reason why I put that was another life, another loss. You keep it moving, and that was that. And I had a few people ask me like, are you done with MMA? And at the time, I wasn't. I didn't. I have a fighter spirit, so I didn't really feel like I was done, but. The way that things goes and with the age and stuff like that, I have nothing to prove when it comes to the MMA world. I did what I did with Bellator. I reached the highest of the mountain. I reached the lowest of the peaks. So I'm at a point now where, I don't really want to be grappling and rolling around and all that shit, and I kind of just want to throw some hands. So now that I'm, take a step back, if you would ask me, I'm not done with combat sports, but I would think that I am done with MMA. But it's hard for me to tell people, I'm retired from doing that, because I'm, like I said, I have a fighter spirit. The right opportunity comes around, I'll do anything. I'll fight anybody. But I don't see myself stepping inside of a MMA cage again.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Like, whatever's firing off inside you, like whatever's stoking the passion and everything, and it seems like Bare Knuckle is, serving that master. But like you were talking about, like, enjoying the fact that you don't have to do such like grappling intensive work anymore, and that's kind of like a sentiment I've heard echoed from certain guys who've come over from mixed martial arts into BKFC, and just like, having transitioned your training methodologies for, like you were saying before, the last year or so. Like, have you noticed it's been a bit easier on your body, like the grappling wear and tear not being there?
Yeah, definitely. It's put a lot of stress on my body, and I'm at a point where, with doing combat sports, you're always going to put stress on your body, but it's not like it was. I'm not waking up, my feet aren't hurting, my neck isn't hurting, my back, my this, that, what I mean? So you get to a point where you still have to be realistic, You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy that's like 45 years old. No, I can still do this. Like, no. You know what I mean? Nah. You know, so I think just coming into, you know, bare knuckle, it's something that it's not far from what I've been doing for all these years, and at the same time, it's a new path for me, and it's a new way to test myself. You know, being able to fight not just guys that can fight, but you know, look at that. That was a pro boxer. You know what I mean? But now we're meeting in a different area where we're both, you know, I know he's had more, you know, bare knuckle fights, but we're both coming into a new sport where it's, you know, it's something different.
Yeah, and I would think you'd be excited just, you know, being able to get back to it after close to like 18 months since you last competed, and just in talking about some of those, you know, injuries from MMA, I would think the time off would be, you know, well served and kind of subverting some of those injuries. Like, was the time off beneficial in that kind of sense?
Yeah, very beneficial. You know, my body, you know, since the accident, you know, I had to take a step back and really just reevaluate, you know, what I wanted to do, what am I capable of doing, and you know, needing that time off, wanting that time off, it has served me in a great way because you know, I'm able to heal and I'm able to move forward with throwing my hands, and which is what I like to do. So. You know, it was definitely needed for my body and my mind. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I mean, just even coming back from something like that, like the fact you're competing after, you know, sustaining an injury of that magnitude is pretty, you know, incredible to say the very least. But I would think that it would be like a very, like, life-affirming thing for you as well. Like, how much did that sort of, like, I guess, change your perspective or give you, I guess, an even compounded appreciation for life, just having been in such a, you know, dicey motorcycle accident? Like, that could have definitely, you know, gone a bad way, but, you know, thankfully it didn't, obviously.
Right. Yeah, we gotta just, you know, as humans in general, I think we tend to take things for granted, and one of the things that we all take for granted is our bodies. You know what I mean? We think we're going to be young forever, or we think we're going to have the capabilities that we always had forever, and it's not that way. You know, when you wake up and you can't feel a whole side of your body, it changes your mind on things. You know, when you go run and you know, your leg is dragging, or you can't do this like you used to, it changes your mind on things. So I've learned to appreciate my body a little bit more, and you know, listen to it a whole lot more. And this has been something that I've known about myself for a long time, but it's now I'm at a point where, yeah, like I said, I just have to listen to my body.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just a lot of great stuff culminating in this debut. And I mean, a great opponent too. I mean, talking about, like, you know, returning from like a bit of a hiatus, like Dat Nguyen has been kind of out of the picture for a little bit, but someone who carved out a really great path in, you know, gloved boxing, but also, you know, bare knuckle, having been the bantamweight champion. And he did have a pretty competitive lightweight title bid as well, jumping up 2 weight divisions, now at featherweight here. Like, what are your thoughts on, like, Dat Nguyen's resume and everything across those 2 sports I mentioned?
Dat is a competitor, and he deserves everything that he's accomplished. You know, he's been a talented fighter with gloves and not gloves, and you know, you can't take that away from him. And that's the thing, you know, when you face somebody that has a mindset like him and myself, you know, you have to acknowledge that. You know, it's not like I can walk in and be like, oh, you know, this guy's a little guy, you know, pushover, whatever. No, he's a fighter, you know, and that's what we are. We're fighters. And like I said, with his resume and things that he's done, you can't take that away from him. You know what I mean? He has a huge warrior spirit, and which I appreciate. And I have nothing but. I'm not one to sit back and shit talk because, you know, I know what it takes to be in combat sports. And so, you know, I appreciate what he's done as far as his resume. And that's what roused me up to you know, want to fight a guy like him and challenge myself.
Yeah, and it seems like you're diving into the, you know, deep end of the proverbial pool here. Like, it kind of indicates to me that you would want to, I guess, get yourself in that, you know, conversation pretty quickly to become the inaugural BKFC featherweight champion. Like, how much is that something that's, you know, on your radar? Like, obviously this immediate task is, you know, paramount focus, but how much is that like a focus down the line for you in this foray?
Oh, well, you know, let's collect the belts. You know what I mean? It's not something that I put it this way. It's a goal that I have of mine. It's something that I would love to, you know, be able to put on my resume as well. But going into the fight, I'm not just thinking, hey, you know, I beat him, I can, you know, become a champ here or whatever. No, I gotta, you know, make my bones in this sport as well. So it's something that's in the back of my head, something I've thought about, but it's not what is I'd say the front line of things for me right now. My front line is you know, getting in this ring and beating that down and getting on to the next opponent and getting on to the next opponent and so on and so forth. And when I'm deserving of it, it'll come.
Well, I think that's a good mentality to have. I guess kind of to that point, like, have you been, I guess, studying the field a bit? Like, I mean, we've got guys like, you know, Kai Stewart, Louis Lopez, and Rusty Crowder, like, just in those top three spots as of this recording. Like, are you the kind of guy that, like, studies the field in general a fair bit, or is it, like, case-by-case basis? Like, if you get the fights locked in, that kind of thing?
I'll be a fool if I haven't. You know what I mean? I'd be a fool if I hadn't studied the field. So yeah, I definitely have kept my eye on the guys that are out there and doing their thing, and but again, like, I don't really focus on others at that time or at the time. You know what I mean? Because I have one goal right now, and I think the talent that is in bare knuckle at the 45 division, it's deep. Like you said, it is deep, and there are some good fighters. And I have, you know, peeked my head out and seen who's doing what, and, you know, how they're looking and stuff like that. But yeah, I play my cards how they come.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm curious, but, like, I mean, you mentioned, like, training for, you know, quite a while for this, which definitely did pique my curiosity, just in the sense of, like, I've talked to certain BKFC fighters who will do, like, kind of specific things in a bare knuckle camp, like, as compared to, like, if it's like a boxing bout, or, you know, if they're going into, like, an MMA fight. Like, it seems like the Muay Thai boards, like punching sand, creating microfractures in the hands, like, those seem to be a few of the different, like, preparation kind of aspects. Like, have you added anything new into this camp for bare knuckle, or not so much?
I have, but I kind of keep it to myself. You know what I mean? I still train how I train. You know, when you train for a different type of fight, you're going to train a different type of way. Which, with this being bare knuckle, I have to train a little different in some aspects of the sport. But yeah, there's some things that I've switched up. There's a lot of things I still do. I wouldn't say the same, but, you know, I train the same way and some other things. So yeah, there's a few things, but you know, I haven't really switched it to a point where it's like, you know, I'm not walking around punching fucking brick walls to get my hands, ready for a bare knuckle fight. It's nothing crazy like that, but you have to be prepared for what you're walking into, and I am well prepared for this bare knuckle fight.
And in terms of those preparations, like whereabouts have you been getting that work in? Like, have you been working at more of like a Muay Thai focused or boxing centric kind of space, or like where have you been mostly preparing?
Well, I haven't really been at an MMA gym. I've been mostly at a boxing gym in Boca, and that's where I've been kind of honing my craft more on the boxing side of things, and staying with some of my old coaches as far as like working on things like not, like I said, not grappling, but the rules are different, so you have to work towards those rules. Upper body work, staying with the Greco and stuff like that. Being able to use my advantages use my advantages to my advantage. And but mostly I've been, in the boxing gym and in the strength conditioning gym, and just, staying at the way that I can be have show my peak performance.
And how important is that kind of facet of the skill set, just like the ability to engage in the clinch and, kind of have that infighting? I would think that with you being like a 2-time Bellator featherweight champion, just the wealth of experience from MMA, that would be a hugely beneficial thing to have.
Yeah, I would like to think so, but you don't know. You don't know till it comes. But in my vision, I think it's, it's been beneficial because it's been something I've been doing for years, underhooking and being able to clinch work. And, that's stuff that I've been doing. I didn't just start doing for bare knuckle. I didn't just start doing it for, this fight. It's something that I've been doing for 20 plus years. You know what I mean? So honing in on something that I am good at, and breaking down some of the things that I need to get better at. It is beneficial. Doing MMA is I don't know. I won't say it. It's a different sport, but there's a lot of things that I can take away from it that I will be using.
Yeah, because I think like the layman perspective from like people who follow BKFC is that like maybe his advantages would be more at range with like his boxing and BKFC experience, whereas like the infighting would be like your area. But like you said, it's a brand new sport ultimately, and I guess just see how it plays out when it goes down.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see where my strength is going to lead me, and where his strength is going to lead him. And more importantly, I'm excited to shut his strengths down, which is what I've been working towards. I want him to be as confident as ever, because those are the things that I'm going to go after.
For sure. And I guess one of my last questions, like maybe you're not even thinking of this as much, just having returned after a little bit now and this being like a new sport, but in your most ideal set of circumstances, like is there a particular amount of fights you would like to get this year?
Is there a particular, you cut out a little bit. Did you say fights?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Just if there was a certain amount of fights you would like to get this calendar year.
Yeah. God willing, I stay healthy. I would like to fight, 3-4 times. I don't want to change it up. Anything that I haven't done that I wasn't doing before. If I can fight 5 times this year, I would love to fight 5 times this year. I just want to stay active, stay busy, stay healthy, and like I said, stay in everybody's face. I want everybody to know that I'm here, and I'm here to take over, have fun, and put on a show for the fans.
Yeah, well, I think this fight you have a great chance to get across all of that for sure. But you've been really great with your time, Daniel, and I appreciate you giving such great insights. But I want to be mindful of your time and everything too. You probably want to relax after training and all. So is there anything you might want to add as like a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, man?
First off, I want to thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Love talking to you. No problem. It's been, a crazy training camp for me. And other than that, just anyone that's listening, please tune in March 17th. It's going to be a fun fight. We're going to put on a show, and it's going to be a war.
Yeah, certainly a very compelling headliner for BKFC 38. And yeah, to reiterate, thanks for coming on the show, man. I'm looking forward to checking out the fight. But until then, you have a good rest of your day, man.
Yes, sir. You too, man. God bless.
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to headline BKFC 38, which goes down on March the 17th. And it's a very intriguing featherweight fight, one I was very excited for when I saw the bout announcement. We've got Daniel Straus and Dat Nguyen knuckling up and towing the line, and great having Dat on the show. How's your day going so far, man?
So far, so good, my brother. Just a lot of work to do leading up to the fight.
Yeah, for sure, and definitely excited to have you, back in the fold because, it wasn't really like, that long ago. I guess like, summer of 2021, like it seemed like the terms weren't really met with BKFC, and then you had to, give up the 135-pound belt because of that. Like, what has changed from, I guess, that point to now? Like, what does the timeline look like from, I guess, the terms not being met to now readying to return to BKFC?
Like I said, BKFC is a growing company, and I like to work with them so that way, we can benefit from each other. So, like I said, David is a great guy, and I know him from before he wasn't even the promoter for BKFC. So, he's always been there to help me when I even need. So, it's only right that I fight for his company and be the best fighter I could be to help the company grow.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that the terms were able to, be met there, because I know like when you were doing your gloved boxing career, there were certain politics that got in the way. So glad that, isn't the case with this BKFC run and you can resume kind of, competing there.
Yes. I'm excited to for David to give me the opportunity to be back here on the spotlight.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, this one, just in the sense that you're, kind of moving north up to 145. You fought for that lightweight title and had jumped up 2 divisions to fight Palomino while you were the bantamweight champion. Like, what was it about, I guess, featherweight that seemed like, okay, this is the division I kind of want to, return to? Like, are you kind of seeking, like, I guess, being like a dual champion, like in the sense of like having that bantamweight belt and then maybe capturing the featherweight belt? Like, I guess what motivated this, return at 145?
Yes, from day one when I joined BKFC, I told David I wanted to do big things. The only way for me to do big things is to win multiple world champion, because, I already won the 135-pound world championship. So moving up, to fight bigger names, that way it will elevate my brand and my status. So that's why the fight at 145 belt wasn't available, so that's the reason why I jumped 2 weight class to fight the best pound for pound Palomino in my last fight. I didn't succeed, but like I said, in better circumstances, I would like to get another opportunity in that weight class.
Yeah, for sure, and I did want to briefly touch on that last one. Like you said there, in the, I guess, very rigid binary of a win and a loss, like not necessarily the outcome you were looking for at BKFC 22, but I felt like, that being said, you were able to have one of the more, I guess, competitive fights with a guy who's the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport. Like, what are your main takeaways from that last fight against Luis Palomino in November of 2021?
I wasn't at my best, after a long layoff with Bedford. That was a year or something, and he's been fighting consistently. Palomino has been fighting every 4 months, so he was a busy man. And, me fighting the best pound for pound, after a year or something layoff, so I couldn't be as sharp as I could be. But like I said, if the opportunity presents itself, I'm planning to stay very busy this year to fight at least 3 times. So hopefully, I can continue to stay sharp and look for another opportunity to fight at any weight class and any of those champions to elevate my status.
Yeah, and I'm curious because you said like the last fight was affected by the fact that you weren't, quite as active. And I'm curious, like, did you learn any lessons from that last time out that you can apply to, this next fight here just because you're returning from another hiatus?
Yes, every single fight I improve as a fighter and I get better. My IQ is improved. Bare knuckle is a brand new sport. It basically with the hot plum and the locked up, it basically is a total new sport. In boxing you can't really do that. You can't have hand control. So all this is a brand new to me. Even though I'm a striker, it is new to me, and I'm adapting to the situation, adapting to the rule set. So I'm actually going to be better than my last fight and all my previous fights. So, that's why I want to maintain consistency. And so I can be, the best fighter I could be, and people can see that.
Yeah, and have you been, I guess, like, really enjoying learning those, like, clinch positions and stuff? Like, obviously very accomplished in gloved boxing before, but like you said, I mean, that kind of infighting isn't really... I mean, there is a certain level of infighting with, gloved boxing, obviously, but not to the point where there's, like, clinching and things of that nature allowed. So, like, how has it been, I guess, learning, like, those aspects of this game, like, in this new sport?
I just got to adapt to the new rule set because, in the back of my mind, I've been a professional boxer for 17 years. So anytime you get in close, you don't get the habit of grabbing your opponent. So just got to change my mindset. Like I'm allowed to do this now. So that's the thing, just got to, break away from, this is not a boxing match. This is a bare knuckle match. And secondly, I'm a wrestler in high school. So I wrestled 4 years, 2-time state placer. So, I just got to kick in the mood where this is going to be a bare knuckle fight where I can grab the guy and I can do different things to him, and then, get adapted to it and get used to the rule set.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, this very much is a new sport, as we're talking about, but I feel like maybe the layman perspective for this one would be that, I guess, you would have the advantage at range, whereas, like, with Daniel Straus's, background as, like, a 2-time Bellator featherweight champion, like, maybe he'd have greater successes in the clinch position, but ultimately it's an entirely new sport, so kind of hard to say, but I think people make those inferences from the fact that, like, you have a boxing background and he's, like, the MMA guy, but I mean, who knows? Maybe he has certain success at range. Maybe you're having certain successes in the clinch. I mean, it is a new sport, as we're talking about.
Yes, it's the new sports, and that's why it's interesting, and the fans want to tune in to see two different, sports athletes from two different combats to clash and see how they would compete in a new sport. So that's what excites me and excites the fans as well,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, definitely a whole host of questions, I still have to touch on, but something I guess I wanted to get your insights on because, like, in, cementing yourself as BKFC's bantamweight champion, you defeated Johnny Bedford, who has since gone on to, retire and everything like that. Like, what were your thoughts on, I guess, his retirement announcement and just the, I guess, competitive dynamics you guys had and stuff like that? Like, I guess, what are your thoughts on him, I guess, kind of, calling it a career and going out on top?
We had a war when we fought each other in the first fight, so I think he suffered some nerve damage there. I mean, I had Bell's palsy too, so my face is half paralyzed, and it's not a symmetrical, So, I mean, those things you can overcome. But, we were supposed to fight again in January. The contract was sent in December for a rematch in January, and he was training for the fight. He was training to fight me for his title, to defend his title. And I signed on it, signed the contract, and was training for the fight. And he he called David maybe like 3 weeks before the fight, saying that he feel like it's time for him to retire when they already signed the contract. So basically, he was training to fight me, and he decided to retire because he realized that fighting me was going to be a tough fight, a war again, and he wasn't up for, his body wasn't going to be up for another war, So, but, like I said, give him some time to rest because, you still get that hunger. But when you start to train for a fight, your body's going to tell you something if you haven't been fighting consistently. So, he doubted himself there, so he pulled the plug and retired. But I think he will be back. I mean, he has a new family, a new baby. So maybe let him enjoy himself, and I'm pretty sure he will be back.
I mean, that strikes me as interesting. So, I mean, you were, I guess, in a position where you could have gotten that, other crack at a 135-pound belt. It's kind of interesting because, I mean, I guess, like, potentially you could, like, I guess, wait certain things out and then maybe see if you could get in there with, I guess, like, Reggie Barnett, who is the current champion. But was there something more enticing about, trying to pursue, like, a path at featherweight? Because I guess based on what you're saying, it would seem like you could, get another crack at the 135-pound belt, no problem. Is there something more enticing about 145 now, though, just with that previous bout falling short with Bedford?
Well, Bedford has always been a 145-pounder. That was his goal. But I don't know why he just wanted to stay at 135. We could have fight at 145, and David would have inaugurated the 145-pound title for me and him in a rematch. But, he had the belt at 135. There's nothing for him to gain at 135. Same for me. I already won that belt from the best guy possible, the undefeated guy, pound for pound, Johnny Bedford. And he beat Reggie twice. So, I mean, if there's a bigger fight in the future down 135, I'd go down there and grab the belt. But right now, it's more interesting for me. It's more, marketable for me to be at 145 and win a world title there. And so I can become 2-division world champion. So when I achieve that, it will open up the door for 155 where I become 3-division. 3-division champion is where it makes my name bigger, so I could elevate my status and make bigger money.
That's interesting, though. So because I know there was an attempt to book that fight with yourself and Reggie Barnett at BKFC 14 circa November 2020, and that didn't pan out. So there's, like, no interest in that fight transpiring based on just what you relayed there. Like, you're not interested in fighting Barnett for the 135-pound belt, at least now.
It's not about interest. It's about, picking the right move where it's going to allow me to make the most money possible because, I'm in the business of making money and at the same time building a name for myself. If I fight somebody that I know I'm going to beat, it doesn't motivate me. I was supposed to fight, Reggie Barnett at BKFC 14 in Miami, and unfortunately, I was the best shape I ever was in my whole life. I trained very hard for that fight. And I got sick again. I got sick maybe leading up to the fight, like 7-8 days. And I wasn't gonna go fight sick again because when I fought my first bare knuckle fight, I was very sick when I fought Travis Thompson, and I had no win. I had to rely on my boxing skill to get through that fight. And in bare knuckle, you don't want to be fighting sick, regardless of whatever fights you're gonna have, and you can't be at your best. And unfortunately for him, I didn't get to fight him. But, people think that I'm ducking him, but I'm not ducking him. There's nothing for me in the game. Like I said, if the money is enough for me to go down there and fight 135, I'll go and get the 135-pound title. But, and guess what? I got to move back up to 145 and get the title at 145 anyway. So, that's like taking a step backward. So, like I said, if David, give me some offer that I cannot turn down, let those guys at 135 build the name up, where the fan, wants to really see it, Right now, there's only a handful of people who think that they want to see that fight, so it's not that interesting to me.
I mean, you seem more interested in the idea of becoming the first ever featherweight champion because, still, as of yet to be an inaugural champ at 145 pounds set up. So, that seems to be like a big consideration for you, like making history, being the first ever champion in this promotion in that weight category.
Yes. Right now the 145 pound is very stacked, And like I said, as I get older, my natural weight is going up as well. So I won't. So 145. I mean, there's a lot of young, hungry kids out there, and I'm a veteran, so I can't wait to compete with those guys and win a belt there, and then move on to the next big thing.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously you're squarely focused on your return and this immediate fight, but I guess I'm curious, like, how much you're, I guess, studying the featherweight field. Like, you kind of strike me as a guy with your experience as someone who would be, I guess, very studious, very, like, aware of the field, just with certain guys being ranked highly, like, Kai Stewart, Louis Lopez, Rusty Crowder. Like, are you studying the featherweight division at a broader level right now, or is it like a fight-to-fight basis kind of thing?
Like I said, I just probably see those guys on BKFC because I tune into the fights. But I heard of them. I probably see a couple seconds of them. But like I said, when I fight them, that's when I take a look at them. But like I said, in bare knuckle, you can be the best boxer, you can be whatever. But when it's time to fight, you got to bring that dog out, and you got to have that dog, and you got to dig deep. And, me being a veteran in this game for so long, I went through so many ups and downs and struggle, so I still have that hunger. I still have that dog in me. That's what carries me all these years, because of the dog in me. So those young kids, they haven't really got somebody that stay right in front of the face and force them to fight. So, they're going to have to bring that dog out, and they're going to find the true person of themselves when it gets tough in there,
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you've showcased that dog in a lot of fights and just a tremendous amount of skill, but we're talking about, like, preparing for fights on, like, a case-by-case basis and just readying to fight Daniel Straus. Like, I'm curious, what are, I guess, your perceptions of maybe what some of his better attributes are? Like, from what you've seen, like, what do you think he does really well as a fighter?
He's a southpaw, so he uses being a right-hander. And me being a right-hander, I don't get to see a southpaw 10% of the time. So basically, I only see southpaw 10% of the time. So maybe that he thinks that's his advantage. But like I said, I'm a striker. And I'm a brawler. So whatever he brings, I'm very prepared for it. The main thing is I got to be in shape, and I'm in shape right now. So when you're in shape, you can fight as hard as you want.
I was going to say, is there any amendments to your training to, I guess, like, ready to fight a southpaw, or is it just kind of like the normative camp regardless of, like, what the opponent's stance would be?
Absolutely. I've been sparring a lot of southpaw, expecting the punch to come from a different angle. And, so that's what I'm prepared to fight for southpaw. And, like I said, as a right-hander, you only get to see the southpaw 10% of the time in your career. And like I said, he's used to seeing right-hander all the time. But like I said, in mixed martial art, this is the well aspect of fighting where you look at the kicks, the takedowns, everything. This is just striking. So that's what I've been doing for 17 years. So I feel that if he wants to strike with me, we'll see because I'm ready for it.
Well, I guess, too, like, when you were getting ready to fight Matt Murphy, I mean, like, he was, like, someone who had that southpaw stance. So, I mean, like you said, more often than not, you're fighting guys in the orthodox stance, but not to say you haven't fought southpaw individuals already, or at the very least prepared a camp for that.
Yes. Like I said, I've been sparring southpaws. I've been bringing them to my house. I train out of my own house here. Before that, my last 3 fights, I've been training out of my restaurant. I just didn't have a gym. I had to go to use other people's gym and train out of there, but that's not very often. So now I have my own gym at my house, so I can access it anytime. I can train at any time. So that's a plus for me, So I feel that I got what I needed to be a better fighter.
And that was admittedly something I, didn't know about you prior to doing my research for this interview. I didn't know you were a restaurant owner. I was seeing you own that Miss Saigon restaurant in Vero Beach, Florida, or at least that was, like, where it was listed in the article I'm kind of sourcing there. Like, how has that whole experience been, just kind of learning the ins and outs, ups and downs of being a business owner, and I guess specifically a restaurant owner?
Yes. In 2010, I opened my own boxing gym, to keep myself in the sport of boxing, because I didn't have a manager. So I opened a boxing gym, and I did that for 10 years. And in 2019, I opened Miss Saigon Restaurant because I wanted to go into the restaurant business, and I thought I would be done with fighting. Because boxing has done me wrong. They never gave me the fight that I want. They're always trying to give me last minute fights to build the guy that I'm fighting. They're not trying to build me. So they're always trying to give me last minute to come in to lose against the prospect. Even though when I beat the prospect, I was, 20-1 underdog. I beat him 22-0, ranked number 2 in the WBA. I didn't even get my title shot. I didn't even get the ranking. And he ended up fighting for the world title against Leo Santa Cruz. So, like I said, it's not how good of a fighter you are, it's who is behind you that's pushing the button. So I didn't have those person. So when I opened after my fight in 2017, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hang it up because I don't think fighting. Even though I was still hungry, I didn't think that fighting. I had a future in fighting because of the people that was controlling the scene. So when bare knuckle became legal, I reached out to David, and I at the same time I had running my restaurant, and David gave me the opportunity to be on bare knuckle, and him controlling bare knuckle, and he gave me the opportunity to be on a big platform. So running the restaurant and being a bare knuckle fighter was very tough, and I was never a restaurant owner, so it was a new thing for me. It was to deal with a restaurant and deal with a boxing gym. So I ran two businesses simultaneously, and at the same time being a bare knuckle fighter. So, I had to, figure out what I want to do. I said, if I want to be a fighter, let's focus my goal on being a fighter. So I sold those two businesses to be a fighter, a full-time fighter.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about some of the politics in gloved boxing, and one of the things I was noticing, like, it seemed like there was a dynamic for a while where, like, when you would get certain bigger opportunities, it would be, like, short notice with, like, minimal time to prepare. Like, I understand at one point there were some talks to fight Ryan Garcia, but then that kind of vanished. Like, what are your recollections of, that fight and that attempt to, curate a fight with Ryan Garcia?
For those guys of big name, they have a huge following. And me being, they just know that I'm a tough fighter. I'm a good fighter, but they wanted to test those guys like Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia against somebody that is very well respected in boxing and very tough, but doesn't have a huge following. But at the same time, is a high risk, low reward for them. So that's the reason why they didn't end up picking me. They pick a different opponent because they look at me as a dangerous opponent. Because if I beat those guys, those guys' career will go down the drain, and they become superstar because they stay undefeated. That's how boxing is. It's not like MMA. Once you have your first loss in boxing, your hype goes away. Your invincibility goes away. And the people no longer look at you as the next big thing. And that's the thing that boxing needs to change. Fighter in the back of the 70s, 80s, they have 5-6 losses, but they still was one of the greatest fighters out there. Fighting today, they always trying to keep undefeated for social media, for the hype. Everybody want to follow the footsteps of Floyd Mayweather, 50-0, to get that hype. Oh, Floyd is Floyd, he's the only fighter out there. Everybody want to be Floyd. And it's not going to, look at the heavyweight division, Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. When they were both undefeated, there was so much hype. There was $100 million on the table, $200 million on the table for them to fight. And when they both lost, nobody cares about it no more. Nobody cares about them fighting each other now. Once they have their loss against their last fight.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for sure. And as someone who follows a lot of combat sports, I am more inclined to, I guess, be in the MMA kind of lane where it's if you're testing yourself against the best guys, I mean, losses are invariably going to happen, delivering the fights fans want to see. But I guess one of the last things I'm kind of curious to get your insights on, because we've talked about some of the politics and behind the scenes stuff in gloved boxing and how there's a certain A-side fighter and things of that nature. Do you feel there's less of that in your bare knuckle experiences? No one gets positioned as the A-side and things in that nature, through your own experiences. Have you noticed it's a little more, I guess, altruistic or fair, maybe, for a lack of a better way to phrase it, I guess?
I've absolutely. Like the bare knuckle. David is following the footstep of the UFC. The UFC is always looking to put on the best fight for the fans. When you have one promoter with a whole bunch of fighters on the roster, you can put those fights together. Same thing with David. Right now, David has a huge roster in bare knuckle, and he can put a lot of exciting fights together. Like for me, I right now moved up to 145, so he can put a whole bunch of big names against me. That I could elevate my status. At the same time, those guys, in the same company is very easy to work with. But in boxing, there's so many different promoters out there. Each promoter controls certain fighters. And for them to have, a super fight, like, look at Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. That's one of the biggest fight out there, and it's been years since they haven't even fought. Once Terence Crawford loses or Errol Spence loses, that hype is gonna go away. Nobody's gonna care about watching them and fighting each other anymore. Because right now they're looking at the two best guy in the 147 pounder. So that's the thing about boxing. They need to change because the fans are, they can't sit and wait forever.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's like they're trying to do that, like, Mayweather versus Pacquiao style methodology where it's like, oh, let's, draw it out as long as we can, and then they'll really want to see it. But yeah, you're definitely gambling because, like you said, it diminishes in value if, like, a loss or even a couple losses pop up. But you've been really great with your time, Dat. I'm sure there's 100 more questions I could ask you, just like the experiences and knowledge you have, but I want to be mindful of your time and schedule too. So is there anything you might want to add as like a parting final thought as we're wrapping up?
Well, Donald, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I want to thank all the fans for always showing me the love and the support and following me on this long journey of my career. I feel like this is my last run for the greatest, achievement. So that's why I sold my restaurant, I sold my gym to focus myself on fighting. And David, David Feldman gave me that opportunity to because he knows my goal. My goal is, to achieve the thing that I set out 20 years ago. And my goal hasn't changed, and he had the same goal. David, set up bare knuckle. He's going to create bare knuckle, and nobody turns, so many people turn him down, and he made it legal and made it possible. So he believed in my dream like the same way, he went and pursued his dream. So I want to thank all the fans out there. If you have a dream, keep going, keep believing, and never give up. One day you're going to get closer. And I'm a step closer now to my dream, of doing the things I want to do in combat sports. So I want to thank all the fans for all the love. And if you don't know me, you can maybe one day hear about my story. And, hopefully I can inspire you.
Yeah, it's been an amazing story so far. And from what we're talking about, it seems like there's still a few more chapters to be written. And the next part of that story transpires on March 17th at BKFC 38. Thanks so much for coming on and giving great insights, Dat. Definitely much appreciated. Wanted to interview you for a while, so thanks for that, and you have a good rest of your day there, man.
Thank you, brother. You have a great day. Thank you so much.